Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is Darren Doctorman.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the inglorious
Treksperts.
Treksperts.
And once again, we're back to play our dangerous game for an episode we call The Real McCoy. And we're joined by Dr. David Alexander, who joins us from NASA. He's the flight surgeon at the NASA Johnson Space Center. So you're in for a real treat today. This is what it really
Real
is like
deal.
to be McCoy. We're not messing around. This is pretty
This
extraordinary
isn't our
stuff.
usual bullshit. This is
This is real space travel and real medicine and all kinds of stuff. No salt shakers.
we're gonna science the shit out of this.
Yeah, we promise you a really interesting conversation. We had a chance to meet Dr. Alexander up at the Ticonderoga Star Trek set tour, which we went on last year, and it was just a terrific. Darren knew him very well from previous excursions. Just a terrific guy, and you'll hear a fascinating, has a real fascinating story to tell. Before we do that, a little housekeeping. Darren, so I saw on the socials that you were singing the praises of Dead Poets Society that you watched again. We just watched it again recently as well.
That's funny.
And what a great movie.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I forgot how good it is. Did we ever use it? I think we did. I think we had Robin Williams as "Oh Captain, My Captain" for the Captain's Courageous Lightning Round, didn't we?
I don't know if we did or not. Of course, it's not Robin Williams, it's Walt Whitman, but
they call
fine.
him "Oh Captain." They call him "Oh Captain" from obviously. But and I don't know if you saw there's a lot going on with the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary. I had never seen the parody of Dead Poet Society, Mr. Bunting's whatever, which is hysterical.
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. They did a parody of Dead Poet Society. They showed a snippet of it on the anniversary special, so we looked it up on YouTube, and it's hysterical. So, and they nail it completely. So if you have a chance, you should check it out. I think you really enjoy it, or be deeply offended. I'm not sure which.
Well, probably both.
No. And speaking of movies, you know what else I forgot about? Isaac and I were watching the other day. We were watching Zodiac, the David Fincher movie, and I forgot that Brian Cox plays Melvin Belli. And there's how we left this out of our best pop culture references. There's a great line where the guy turns to Melvin Belli on the air and says, "You were really great in Star Trek last week."
Oh my
He goes, "Yeah, everyone over there they're good people over there at Star Trek." And it was a whole conversation about it. The children shall lead. It's the most interesting take on the children shall lead ever depicted on celluloid. So
If only David Fincher had attempted to recreate some of that for Zodiac, that would have been amazing, right? And David Fincher doing
A little bit
Star
off the
Trek.
track, though.
yeah, a little bit off the track. Yeah, indeed. So we've been getting so many comments and letters and socials about the holiday specials, even weeks later. And our good friend, good listener, a good friend. We don't know him, but he's a good listener.
But he could be a good friend someday.
Woodrow Wilson sent the nicest letter. I have to share it with you. I think this really summed it up. So this is from Woodrow Wilson, not the president, former president.
That was us.
But he's been, long-time listeners will recall that I met him at the LBJ Library down in Austin when we were down at GalaxyCon Austin, and I think he came to another convention that we were at, and he said, he did. He gave us those lovely gift bags.
Yep.
And he's been very generous, and so he sent this letter, which I think is wonderful. I'm going to read it to you. Thank you for another year of marvelous holiday specials. I thoroughly enjoyed all 10 episodes, especially the rebuttal coda. I started writing an email and realized it lacked coherence and structure, so I decided to convert it to a top 10 list to compliment and honor your outstanding broadcast. Like many folks after the recent presidential election, I was in a pretty dark depression, and these podcasts absolutely brought me large qualities of joy and even hope. The greatest lesson of Star Trek is humanity will evolve and eventually create a more inclusive, compassionate, prosperous future for all citizens of the Earth. We may not experience World War III or the eugenics wars, yet the darkness of the Trump era may go down as equally cataclysmic, and hopefully humanity will survive and the Vulcans will still show up on or near April 5th, 2063. Thank you for your precious holiday gifts of hope and joy. Now I'm going to read you the top 10 list. Are you ready for the top 10 list?
I
It's
don't
pretty
know.
spectacular.
We'll see.
Number 10. I just like David Letterman. I've always wanted to do this, right? I need a little board where I can slide. Okay. Number 10. Watching Rob drink water from gigantic mason jars. How much water does Rob drink every day, and how could he not need to go to the bathroom during the show?
See, that's the
Hey,
thing.
that's-
That's number 10.
The Robservatory has a seated latrine.
That's right.
He's sitting on a toilet the whole time. That's really funny. Okay, that's a good question. So number 9, Mark's idea of top 10 Trek teasers list and his conclusion that Tomorrow is Yesterday had the best teaser ever. No nonsense setup explanation necessary. Maybe number 2 is cause and effect. And you know what? That would be number 2 on my list. Actually, he's not wrong. I don't know about you. What would your number 2 top Trek? Yeah, I think that cause and effect would definitely.
I've never calculated it.
You've never bothered to calculate. They are astronomical. Okay. Number 8, Darren's recounting of watching the new Unification film at Ticonderoga with Bill Shatner and describing Bill's reaction, as well as all your comments and reactions about the Unification film. The brilliant term tone poem is now in my vocabulary. Ask questions and don't spoon feed the answers. Very nice. Very nice. Number 7. You ready, Ash?
Yeah.
This one's coming to you. Ashley's consistent inclusion of Lower Decks episodes in the countdowns. Modern Trek has 2 humans that absolutely understood Star Trek, Terry Matalas and Mike McMahon. For Paramount not to give both of them live-action series is an abomination to humanity. How good could Star Trek be if Paramount handed the keys to the kingdom to Ron Moore and Mike McMahon? Battlestar Galactica, Lower Decks. Okay, well, there you got it. Number 6. Mark's description of Chekhov inappropriately enjoying the ships being destroyed in the ultimate computer. It's true. He's not wrong.
Not wrong.
He's not. Chekhov was he was too enthusiastic about those ships getting their asses kicked.
Video gamer generation.
The Potemkin is moving off. It's like, okay,
Let me interrupt your list for a second and tell you that I saw Walter Koenig on Saturday.
You did? Where'd you see him? At a bus stop?
We were at a restaurant. We were having
at a restaurant.
At a restaurant with our friend Bob Burns and several other visual effects and monster people.
That's wonderful.
We're getting him lunch, and I walk out to pay my check, and there's sitting at one of the tables is Walter. And
so Walter wasn't at the Bob Burns thing.
No,
he was just at the restaurant.
I walked up to him and I said, "Walter, how are you? It's good to see you." And he looked at me strangely at first, trying to piece, where do I know this person from? And then almost immediately he recognized me. He said, "Oh, how are you?" I'm not going to do the voice. And I told him, he and Bob Burns had been friends for many, many years, and they hadn't, they sort of had a bit of a falling out a few years ago. So I just thought I would say, Bob Burns is sitting over in the other room there. He says, "He's here?" I said, yeah. If you wanted to walk over and say hi to him, I think he'd enjoy that. And he immediately went over and said hi. It was very nice. They had
good.
That's great.
Nice, brokered the peace. Nobel Peace Prize goes to Darren Dochterman. I don't know. Maybe the Organian Peace Treaty. Maybe he's like a little Organian.
Maybe. It was great, and I was glad to see Walter and Bob.
Number 5. The thoughtful analysis of top 10 spy episodes absolutely demonstrates Rob's excellent point of how well Section 31 was dealt with in Deep Space Nine, yet was completely botched and bastardized in Discovery in the Section 31 movie. Additionally, in the rebuttal episode, Mark made a great point about how the Section 31 movie used name-dropping to exploit the goodwill that the characters have to emotionally blackmail the audience into loving the modern versions of these thinly drawn characters. Okay.
Well said.
Number 4, Mark's analysis of Kirk and Core not being besties that wouldn't have drinks with each other, and Kirk not liking Klingons was excellent. Quote, Kirk realized he was wrong about wanting war, not that he was wrong about liking Klingons. Woodrow, I agree with you. And since you also were responsible for keeping America out of World War I for a while, how can I argue with you? Okay, number three. When Rob was making his best Trek series list, Mark asked him, what about Picard, Enterprise, Prodigy, Discovery, and Lower Decks? Rob responded, don't care. 2, Mark's introduction to the Guilty Pleasure Show was the perfect balance of empathy, sensitivity, and inspiration. Today's world is replete with so many depressing and demoralizing moments and events. From Trump's re-election to unprecedented natural disasters to dismantling of essential American institutions, humans need something to uplift them and give them joy. The Treksperts deliver this every week. Every week. How can you argue with that?
Mostly.
And then last number 1. You want to know what number 1 is? This is like a whole nother holiday episode. Number 1, the rebuttal episode. This was one of the best episodes of the Treksperts podcast ever. A lot of people give epic and unacceptable lip service to listening to and respecting different points of view. Yet the Treksperts and Rob actually exemplified infinite diversity and infinite combinations during this episode. I think that your guests made several valid points about the merits of various Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks episodes. And even though Rob and others may have disagreed, you all listened to them and let them make their cases. The exchange about the characterization of Spock and Chapel in Strange New Worlds was probably one of the best analysis of modern Trek that I've heard. I tend to agree with Jeff, Jesse, and Kay, yet Rob made strong points as well. Also, Rob went out of his way to find common ground with guests who said things about Strange New Worlds and modern Trek that probably made his blood boil. Please do more podcast episodes like this. Lingering questions.
I don't know if we can stand to do more pod episodes like that.
1. What else did Mark have on his Walkman mixtape of Star Trek music? I'm not going to bore you with that. You could probably guess.
Number 2, Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah.
What? No. Why didn't Darren do his impression of Old Man Picard saying Geordie during his analysis of All Good Things? Darren?
because that should be saved for a good moment, and that wasn't.
Number 3. How is Ashley not seen the end of Battlestar Galactica?
I still don't know how it ends. That's how great I am at avoiding spoilers. Don't spoil it.
Okay. Number 4. We're almost done. What is the means by which Rob gets his Exo 6 figures? Is it legal? We don't know. If we knew, we would do the same thing. She'll make it legal. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then he wants to know when will the following Treksperts podcast episode occur? Are you ready? Greetings from Jeff Bond's garage. Well, that would have to be visual. I don't think we could do that just audio. Like, that really needs to be, that's a visual thing. Plus, I don't want to drive all the way to the valley.
I sure as hell don't.
So, B, the continuing adventures of Mark's plumber. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're done with him, to be honest. I think I've had enough of him. I've had enough of you. C, All Good Things 4K and Blu-ray with Rob Burnett. Oh, this next one's good. Go climb a yacht rock, sailing through the epic documentary.
Either that or the Captain's Yacht Rock.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's good. E, where is Library? Mark's reactions to Rob's allusions to Star Trek books. Yeah, we're not doing that one. You're cordially invited. Rob Burnett's Vegas cosplay wedding. Yeah, we've talked enough about that. I don't think we're going to talk about that anymore.
The production values on that alone would be astronomical.
Yeah. Plus, we out of respect to Yelena, I think. But anyway, you know what? We got this great episode that we're to share with you. Dr. David Alexander from NASA is here with us. And he's about to join us right after these brief commercial messages. So stay tuned. We'll be back with a few closing thoughts after that.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Take your plans out of the group chat and get long weekend ready in new Abercrombie. From day to night, pack new outfits for every part of your itinerary. Grabbing brunch? Throw on the A&F Mila dress. Then head to your dinner reservation in their new bubble hem mini dress. And yes, permission to overpack for pics with the girls. Abercrombie's best-selling Scarlet Squirt deserves a post in your feed. Your plans are worth it. Shop Abercrombie's new long weekend collection online or in store.
And here we are with the real McCoy. See what I did there? It's Dr. David Alexander, NASA flight surgeon at the Johnson Space Center. And we're so happy to have you. I know Darren's known you for a long time. Ashley and I got to meet you for the first time in Ticonderoga last year. And we have so many questions, but given the fact that Roberta Flack died today, is it possible to kill somebody with your song? It's not, is it? He's a doctor. I got to ask questions.
That depends on the pitch and the frequency and the volume.
I've got a great pitch. Oh, wait, no, wrong kind of pitch. My bad.
No, different thing. So, yes. So look, obviously, this is so fascinating. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, because it's not just what people would think when they hear a flight surgeon. You know, it's training, it's care, it's not just the crews, but it's their families. So tell us a little bit about what your job entails.
Okay. So first off is getting to NASA, and that's not an easy process in and of itself. So I did a course of medical school, and then I did internship and residency in emergency medicine, and then a fellowship in air medical critical care, which combines critical care inside of aircraft. I then practiced that at Cleveland Metro Life Flight for about 4 years, and then moved on to associate medical director of Stat Medevac, which had 9 helicopters, 5 fixed wing, including 2 of those that could go international. All the time applying to NASA, hopefully, getting the one. And so wasn't making it with that, because they don't tell you all the qualifications. They say, hey, here's your qualifications. Like, I made it. No, you didn't. Right. Okay. So I next moved to the United States Air Force and was assigned to an F-15 squadron as a squadron medical element, and grew a lot, with a whole lot of time in B-1s, F-15s, things like that. And at the end of the assignment, it's like, man, I'm not going to make it, so I need to sign up for the Air Force again. And got the call. It's like, are you interested in? It's like, oh yes. Yeah. And it's just like, so I got the call on Friday, and it's just like, can you be here next Friday? Dropped the leave paperwork and said, see ya. It was interesting with that. But as a flight surgeon, you take care of the fighter pilots, and not only the fighter pilots, but the families, and you carry that with you. Now, the reason that they want a whole lot more experience and stuff like that is because at the time, one of the requirements was to go to Star City, Zvezny Gorodok, in Russia, the hidden city, as well as recovery operations in Kazakhstan, the Baikonur So it's out in the middle of literally nowhere. I mean, half the country is just landing zone for the Soyuz and various other rocket particles. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to be on the bottom end of that one.
Because they would do land landings, not water landings. Yeah.
So land
and this is because of the cooperation regarding the International Space Station between Russia, Europe, and the United States. That's why you would go to Star City.
Yep. And so that was my first rotation was the Star City, and I mean it is you can't even see Moscow. It was a 5-hour journey to get somebody into Moscow if we had a medical emergency. So we actually set up an emergency clinic and a clinic there in Star City to take care of all the astronauts that were training there, and some of the astronaut training was hazardous. So that we had, spacesuit. The Gidra Laboratory in Russian, and so that's the underwater facility that they dive in the Sokol suit, which is their space suit. And so if there was a decompression emergency or anything else like that, we had to handle it on site, and then the initial treatments, and then get them into Moscow and stuff like that to get them treated. It was all contingency. We've had to transport astronauts into Moscow and stuff like that, but nothing in the training side or anything else like that. And they have one of the largest free arm centrifuges. So that was always fun to see, is that they could actually fit almost the seat, the encompassments, and a whole lot of other stuff inside that thing, and it's just like, that's a huge centrifuge.
Was it like in Moonraker?
Right? Oh, yes.
Roger Moore goes around at Drax's.
Just think of that and multiply that by about 10 times.
It's the one where Ed Harris goes like this.
Oh, when he's being boring. Wait, no.
Yeah. So
how much of a culture shock is it for you when you go somewhere like Star City? I assume that the majority of the people also speak English in addition to Russian by necessity.
Actually, we had to get immersed Russian, and then, and actually I took Russian lessons over there in Russia, but most of the faculty, we had to have translators and stuff like that. Most of it is in Russian. The astronauts have to do immersion training, and we have to get immersion training prior to going over there, because basically you're on the local Russian economy, so you have to do all your shopping and food preparation and everything else like that, and which was basically a fancy camping trip, but which actually one of the events is that they take them out in the middle of the woods and do survival training in the winter.
Right.
That's where you learn that Celsius and Fahrenheit cross right at -40.
Now, do you have to accompany them, or are you just on call? Okay, so you're there with them.
So we're there with them during the day, and so, but they cut you off at night, because they want them to be, get the feeling of being in the woods at night. So they take us away in the late afternoon. We do a final check, and then they have to do the rest of their survival skills.
So did you do a smile and wave as you were driven off? Good luck, boys.
Suckers.
See you in the morning. Good luck with that one. Oh yeah. So yeah, that was it. So actually, it was a here's a fire hydrant open wide, because also at the same time I was doing shuttle training. So I was the first dual certified ISS and shuttle surgeon to do that. So I did 3 rotations in Russia and came back after the third one. It's like, tag, you're on a shuttle mission.
Wow.
Whoa. So that, and so depending on the crew, whether it's shuttle or ISS, the sequence is about the same. And so you take care of the crew as a crew surgeon. So you're either the lead or the deputy. So you do the deputy first after you get, a bunch of sims and actual mission sitting console under your belt. You're actually assigned as a crew surgeon. And so basically for a year, prior to the shuttle mission, you're in there with the training. You make sure that they maintain their medical certifications, and you literally know them inside out. Literally. So all the scans, everything. And so basically you take them through the certification. In the US, it's called the Aerospace Medicine Board. And so they get mission certified. So you take all their baseline stuff that the astronauts on entrance get, the continual certification, and then the mission certification that goes along with that. ISS is about the same, only that's a year and a half, maybe 2 years in front. But the additional stuff is not only do you take them to the AMB, but you go over to Russia to do what's called the GAMK. So you have to certify them for the Soyuz. So you take them through the contingency drills in the Soyuz, monitor those, and then present them as that. And boy, do you get grilled by the Russians. Oh, we see this sort of problem that occurred when he was 8 years old. And it's just like, yet problem, well healed, well documented. Here's the next one. Well, we see this as a, and so you're grilled. You better know that astronaut for that. And then we follow them for the 6 months or 6, 7, 8 months that they're up there on the space station, and then we do the recovery for a year afterwards for the readaptation and stuff like that. So all the time, we're not only the astronaut representative, but the family representative. So in mission control, everyone's got a mechanical system except for one person. That's the surgeon. We have to take care of the pink squishy bio supercomputer that's running everything. And so that's us. And so, we're normally not the ones speaking up. But if in mission control you hear flight surgeon, yeah, the flight director is looking, going, what does he want? Because usually that's not a good sign if the flight surgeon's speaking up.
Right.
And so you take them through mission control and stuff like that, and then recover them. And then there's a whole lot of stuff with space adaptation that's not really taught anywhere, but that's some of the stuff that we have to learn and adapt. And go on from there. And so one of the interesting things is that the ASCAN, the astronaut candidates, the initial physical is 2 weeks long. So,
wow. That's a long time to turn your head and cough. That's crazy.
Yeah, how many times can you turn your head? But we literally brain scans, MRIs, CT scans, laboratories. It was funny that my first time I did it, and it's just like the nurse comes down the hallway, and she points a finger and says, not yet. It's like, hon, let's put it this way. When I tell you to get naked, you get naked. Because they are going to look at every single thing. And she closes the door, and then she looks at me and goes, all right, I turned on the Southern Charm.
The rest is up to you. Yeah.
He has no idea what's going to happen next. And it's just like, okay. And we do very, very, very thorough exams and stuff like that. They go through physical, mental, a whole bunch of batteries and stuff like that.
How much of that thoroughness is because of concern for the astronauts themselves, and how much is for concern that that NASA doesn't get blamed for something?
It's principally for the certification that they can become an astronaut. So space is not friendly.
Right.
And it does a whole bunch of stuff. So all of that is making sure that we get a very healthy subject that can do everything in space, everything, from being inside the spacesuit, which is, that's an adventure. So it is principally to make sure that we've got a good astronaut candidate. They can go for a long time in space. But the big thing is that if there's a contingency up there, we need somebody that is healthy and can compensate
and can adapt.
So it's not a selection; it's a filtering process. So that when you make an astronaut selection, you know that you've got a candidate who will be able to handle.
Yep. And so basically, you take them that step further. That's the big building block, and so it's just changes after that. Now, mission certification, that's to make sure that they're ready for the mission. The spacesuits here on Earth are really tough on the shoulders and the upper body, because this is your range of motion is right in front of you. Is if you reach out straight in front of you, about 10 degrees laterally, and about you can't even grasp your hands.
Jack off. Oh no, sorry.
Oh, come! I cannot.
But that changes in a 0G and depressurized situation.
Right, and so basically the spacesuit blows up.
Right,
and so you're actually fighting the spacesuit to move around and stuff like that because it's vacuum outside. So it's a workout. It is a workout.
And is there a way that can be simulated on Earth?
That's the NBL, the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. And so basically the entire representative modules are sunk underwater, and it's 45 feet deep. So a lot of the flight surgeons act as safety divers. So we actually have to have mixed gas certification. It's not your normal Dan dive down in the Bahamas or whatever. We're actually mixed gas, so we can be down there for longer. And then we got the safety pallet and check it off, and it's just like, and so we're in communication with the divers, and so if they're upside down for a long period of time, that's impingement right on the shoulders. And so we time them, and it's just like, all right, give them the sign, flip them over, and they'll reorient them so that they don't get shoulder impingement and stuff like that. And what we find out is that these guys are usually athletes before they come in.
Right.
And it's amazing the amount of torque and stress that they've already put on their shoulders, hips, and knees in the first place. And so we're really pretty cautious about them. And then they get out of the pool. The helmet comes off, and then they come out. They don't even unsuit the lower portion, and we're applying ice to decrease any inflammation and stuff like that almost immediately. Doing assessments right there at the pool side to make sure that those up. And now that doesn't happen on orbit. There's no impingement because you haven't got any weight to impinge, but it's the fight.
You still have the restriction of moving the suit around, right?
Yep. But we're constantly. I mean, we're looking at their EKGs, their metabolic rates, and stuff like that. And so what's amazing.
Science.
Yeah, they're life signs, but it's also the suit life signs.
Right.
They've got great amount of oxygen. It's a CO2 scrubbing that's the big denominator. So that's battery life. And so basically we look at it, and so we have to metabolically limit them to about 1,000 to 1,200 BTUs on the initial hour, because all of that moisture will saturate the scrubbing capability immediately, and that shortens the amount of EVA time that they go. And so we make sure of that. And once the suit is accommodated, it's just like, all right, 6-8 hours, go for it. We got plenty of oxygen and stuff like that. But
you're not necessarily attached to the ISS now, right? You're on a different track now.
So I moved over from crew surgeon to a flight surgeon representative. I was originally the principal medical officer for the Artemis Orion program.
Right.
So when they stood up the Moon to Mars program, they switched me over to Moon to Mars. and the Gateway program. And so I'm the principal, what's called the principal medical officer for those. And that was a shock. The bosses called me in and it's just like, all right, we're removing you from the Artemis Orion program. And it's just like, you know,
what?
Anal sphincter tone went from 5 to 500. You know, it's just like I created an airtight seal back there. And
like, what did I do?
What did I do? Did I screw up? It's like, oh, no. We're moving you to Moon to Mars. And it's like, oh, wow. Wow.
You're going to the majors.
Yeah. And then they dropped the big ball and it said, okay. So I went, so where are my medical operation requirements? The MORD, that's the big document. And then the MOSIP, the Medical Operations System Integration Plan, and the CONOPS, and the medical contingency operations, and the design specifications. And they said, oh, well, as soon as you write them, you'll have them. Oh my God.
So my big question about this is, like, how did they break it to you that they were going to need to create a hologram version of you to have on the mission in the event of an emergency?
So, actually,
as it turns out,
there is medical holograms that were being experimented on the International Space Station right now. There is.
You heard it here first, kids. Only on the Treksperts.
So there is a doctor hologram. They have developed it, and so basically, it's a pretty good hologram. And so, please state the nature of your medical emergency is actually up there, and so they've been refining it right now. So it's just like, the medical hologram is it's spooky weird. I mean, but basically, you'll pop up in front of the astronaut. And it's just like, whoa! It's just like, you're here. It's like,
so if that's true, is it also true that engineers love to change things?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I got to ask you because, obviously, was it Star Trek that presaged your interest in space and medicine, or was it space and medicine that was the catalyst for your interest in Star Trek?
All right. So first off, growing up, it was Star Trek. We're all natural explorers, and who can go outside as a kid, look up at the stars and not wonder what's out there? And when I saw Star Trek for the first time, and it's just like, it was as a kid, it's just the wonderment of just going out there and discovering stuff. And then as you grow up, it's just like, hey, there's some actual science behind this. And then it sort of accelerated. Luckily enough, I had high school teachers that they were actually, since it was small classes and stuff like that, saw the potential and they herded us off into specialized classes, and so they knew it was either going to be physics or biology for me, and they actually told my parents. Didn't tell me. I would have liked to have known that. And so I got sat down in my last year of high school, and they sort of said, look, here's a career path you really need to do. And that's when I selected pre-med in college. All the time, it was Star Trek following me, and it was that always the wonderment, and always going back to the original series, and just the awe and wonder, and that changed with, the more science you learn, the more science you understand. And some of the stuff that was actually in the background, I mean, there's a one panel up on, the bridge, and it's just like, hey, that's Einstein's time dilation formula. There's actual OX2, and it's just like, that's an actual aircraft reading. And if you look at, the engineering panel, there is actually a time dilational relationship with space graph. And it's just like, and so that was some of the early stuff that you get for warp drive. And so it's like, and so that was interesting. And of course, if you look at the original series in the background, some of the stuff in the background, like even the cage, it's like there's NASA photographs sitting right there. Yeah. And so a lot of the stuff is back there. The Saturn IV for, as from McKinley Station, and it's just like it's a nuclear powered rocket. I mean, excuse me, a nuclear device on top, nuclear device. It's a space thing. But always that, and it's just like all the background. I mean, in Cisco's office, right in the corner, there's a model of the ISS sitting right there. Right. And so it was neat to carry that explorer, inquisitiveness, and to see the connections all through Star Trek just grow and grow and grow. And so it was always an amazing journey between becoming a NASA flight surgeon and Star Trek, and it's always been a root thing for me.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you a little about, because there has, in the history of Star Trek and NASA, at certain times they have walked hand in hand together, especially during the Apollo missions. They would have the Star Trek actors and writers as guests, and the astronauts would come and visit the sets, and all sorts of interactions that it was almost like a sibling relationship, and I'm wondering how you found it to be when you joined NASA, if your fandom was reciprocated in any way with your co-workers.
Absolutely. And that was amazing. Day one, walked through the door. Here's Dr. Alexander. He's a brand new flight surgeon, blah, 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 blah. And so we went over to building 30, which is the entrance to mission control. And so we're on the back offices and stuff like that. And so I walk into one of the offices, and there's a couple guys sitting in there, and they say, "Hey, this is Dr. Alexander," and stuff like that. And one of them was, and it's just like he saw the Eclipse and some of the, Apollo stuff, and there's over in the corner it's just like, that looks like a little Enterprise. And so he looks at me and says, "All right, what side are you on?" And then I'm going, "What side am I on?" It's like, the right side, the left side, the up, down, good side. And it's just like, no, Star Wars or Star Trek. Star Trek, it's more realistic. You're allowed in here. And it was the chief ecom for the latter end of the Apollo missions, and he was about 4 years from retiring. And he said, "Oh, yep, you're all right. These young kids and this Star Wars stuff."
Oh my goodness!
And it's just like, and he was kidding, and it's just because when they come to us, the kids, and we'll call them kids, come in, and as you imbibe them in NASA, you start to see the change, and it's just like, hey, this Star Trek thing's kind of cool. Just don't let them see the third season. But and then all of a sudden you see the next generation kids come through, and it's amazing. And then the Star Wars kids get to arguing with the next generation kids, and we're all sitting back there going, "Yep, told you, more realistic. Yep."
My goodness.
Now it's interesting because obviously Star Trek has been praised for its prescience. What have you found working in this world that Star Trek really got right? Like, what is it about Star Trek where you say, yeah, I mean, Gene and all the writers and stuff, they really saw this coming, or technology that maybe isn't that far away that they predicted.
Oh boy. There is a ton. So some of the stuff that they got right is warp drive. It's amazing. Down, just 3 buildings down was Cook and White that took Albuquerque's formulas for warp drive. What was amazing is Albuquerque was a Star Trek fan.
Right.
And so he was in astrophysics for years and years and years. And he said, there's got to be a way to do warp drive. And so he had been working a long time on some theoretical stuff. And he basically closed himself off, and over a weekend developed a warp sequential formula for warp drive and creating a warp bubble and then moving it. And it's like, and then it was just like, there's one little problem. It required like 3 to 4 massive black holes to power. Like,
right.
Ooh,
that's a lot of batteries.
That's a lot of stuff. So Cook and White basically said, okay, let's use some conservation of energy formulas. And so basically what they said is that, if you think about a circle, you're at the bottom part of the circle and another planet's at the other circle. So instead of a warp bubble concentrically coming around that, think about this is that you elongate the bubble lengthwise, bringing the two together, and then collapsing the bubble behind it, pushing you forward. And it's just like, wow, interesting. And so they basically said, we're going to use the warp bubble to push you forward. Same time reference, but push you forward across space. So
is it pushing you forward, or is it distorting space?
Both. So basically it's distorting space, pulling the 2 points together. So by laterally expanding the bubble out to the side, it collapses behind you, accelerating you across that short gap.
Wow. Kind of like in Animal House when John Belushi has a mouthful of mashed potatoes. And he's like, what am I now? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So now that only required, 1 or 2 of our solar suns, our star.
Yeah. Way big savings.
Way big savings. And it's just like,
I grab Thor's hammer. What a savings.
Oh, yes. So, but it was interesting because at the same time, the collider over in Europe said, hey, we've created antimatter and it's stable only for a couple microseconds,
right.
But they've been building on it. So yeah, they got that right.
Wow.
So for me, it's just like, where's the boom? Where's the earth-shattering kaboom? It's just like, no kaboom, no kaboom, no kaboom. But yeah, they really do. But some of the stuff that, for me, is some of the research that's being done on ISS, and it's just like, gene splicing and sequencing up on orbit is far easier. There's no gravity pulling it apart. Drug crystallization, and we can actually modify that. And by using the two technologies is in the future creating specific drugs to the specific person. So whatever it is, getting the diagnostics. Oh, by the way, the tricorder exists, and it's a small box, about half the size of your cell phone, that can that the Canadians developed for the tricorder competition. So right. It can take your blood pressure, it can take your pulse, it can take your respiratory rate, it can actually do some miniature labs and stuff like that, all in a small little box. And that was for the Moon to Mars exploration program. So for cancer, cell cultures can be done quite easily up there, and basically they can look at organoids, which are studies of microorganisms and microstructures inside the cell. So for cancer research, they actually, an intern here went back to this small little drug company, and it's just like, we can't afford to do all this stuff for the Food and Drug Administration and stuff like that. So this came back and said, hey, NASA has these interesting programs that the NIH funds. And so basically what they did is they flew this drug. They crystallized it on orbit and said, yep, it matches the splicing for that RNA perfectly. And so what they also did is they took cell cultures, one with cancer, one with normal cells, plated the drug out in the cells, and come to find out, it's just like all the cells with cancer died, and all the cells that that didn't have any cancer cells actually reproduced quite well.
Wow.
And so that cut off years and years and years for a treatment for adenocarcinoma, and it accelerated that. And I think the first couple patients have been treated now with it, and a large amount of success.
That's amazing.
So,
what about the discovery of midichlorians?
Have you ever tested your midichlorian count?
I have not, and I can't.
Yeah, no, wrong team.
You've talked about the moon to Mars. What are the latest prognostications in terms of when we might actually make it to Mars, and what are the biggest challenges and hurdles that you have encountered as you sort of wrestle with this moon to Mars pathway?
Getting there. That's probably the big one. Is that the 9 to 11 month trip is quite a big effort, and so you get there and you have to hit the apogee, the closest orbital plot, and you can only stay for 2 weeks, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and you got to turn around, get your butt home, and it's 9 to 11 months. Otherwise, you're spending a year and a half to get to the same position.
Right. Otherwise, you're Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon. Can you kind of scope out the problem for us in the sense of how long it takes to go to the moon and back versus how long it takes to go to Mars and back? Like the logistical concerns that you have in terms of the Artemis mission versus moon to Mars. Because obviously, I think for most of us, when we think about, the Apollo program, you go to the moon, like, hell, we did it like, however many times we did. How many times did we do it, man? Like, I don't know. We did like, what, 8 times, something like that. We've done it. We've sent, unmanned missions there. It seems like a thing. People can't get their head around, like, it's 8 light minutes from Earth to Mars, right? So what does that mean for the astronauts, that 9 to 11 months versus a trip to the moon?
So that is, you're exposed to microgravity for a long period of time, and you're outside the Van Allen radiation belts. So the risk of radiation vastly increases. But we've learned a whole lot since that time. So what is a great ameliorator for cosmic space radiation? Water. Who knew? It's just like, it's great. Also the polysorbate, polycarbonate, the polys really do a good job of protection. So actually we did some experimentation on a radiation shelter aboard the Artemis that popped itself around the moon, and the radiation levels were far, far less than predicted. So learning that, creating a positive or negative charged field around the vehicle is also another possibility.
Deflector screens?
Exactly. It's an energy field. It's just like, I got my laser shields. So it's that. But one of the bigger things is that, can we take down and get there? And so the newer engine technologies that NASA has come up with, such as the plasma engine, the ion engine, the Vasimir, which is basically a fancy ion engine, all accelerating it. And so getting to the moon in 90 days that's one of the things that the Gateway Space Station is going to be experimenting with. And the first thing that we're going to have up there is that the orbital maneuvering engine for Gateway is an electronic engine. So we take the power from the solar cells and produce propulsion.
Wow.
So, cool. So, but food is going to be a big thing. Because right now the ISS is resupplied, and so you can't resupply there. So basically, sending rockets there so that you can meet, that already started to mine water, start some hydroponics going off and refining fuel. It's interesting that some of the lithium substrates we've actually cracked and produced oxygen. So water flows geographically on Mars. It's not like a lake or anything else like that. It's embedded in the soil and the substrata. And actually that's where some of the craters that have been created or valleys that look like it's been washed through. Yeah, it's water. So learning on the moon how to mine that, and basically now it's like, all right, I've got water, I can drink it. 2, I can split it into hydrogen, fuel, and oxygen. I can breathe it. And so learning all to do that is really going to be important. But, getting the human, shortening the trip so we can stay longer, survival, getting there and back, and then quickly. The advantage of a constant propulsion engine is that unlike a slingshot, using a gravity slingshot on a free return, is that you screw up on the way, hey, I can turn around, thrust the other way, and come home. Otherwise, it's just like if something happens on the way on a free trajectory, it's like you're going to Mars. Oops.
Yeah.
So what about the psychological health of the astronauts on that trip? I mean, to and back.
That's a big issue that we have right now aboard ISS. Is that they're isolated, but making sure that they have good contact with the families and stuff like that. So that's why in their sleep quarters we have they can either call their families by a computer, a cell phone, or a ham radio. The hams, and so basically they can keep in contact with their families constantly. We do have every week a private medical conference to check them, physically, and then a mental behavioral health one, so the checkup from the neck up, so see how they're doing that way, and so it's all support and stuff like that. Because now everything that we do now, all right, so you get a Zitker, beep, Houston, this is Artemis 2, how you reading, beep. So you get the Zitker and knowing you're in the cross communication, and that's about 2 to 3 seconds delayed. In going to Mars, you're at Mars, that's 20 minutes. Beep, Houston, beep. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So psychological support is going to be a key thing. Learning their choices. We supply movies. Care packages go up on all the resupply missions and stuff like that. Special birthdays and stuff like that, they'll get a package and it's just like Christmas. Of course, turkey. We supply, that Thanksgiving and stuff like that. There's special meals and stuff like that. So there's always special things. They'll get into one of the cargo vehicles and it's just like, hey, for astronaut Z, it's like, hey Z, here's something for you. It's like, wow.
What about Tang? Is there no Tang? No more Tang?
Tang is actually still up there.
Wow.
So
who knew?
What's interesting is that your taste buds change on orbit. So they really pour on the hot sauce, and because they get swelling around the taste buds. And
interesting.
The taste buds change, and so they like things spicy.
Ooh.
And it's interesting, and it's just like, so we're actually conducting experiments in this mission to see how hot can it get and on here on the planet, and how hot can you stand it up there on orbit.
That's interesting.
Wow.
So
it sounds like a job for Hooters.
Ta-da! I'll volunteer.
Are you? Do you watch? I mean, we talked about Star Trek a little, but one of the shows that seems to really be getting this right is For All Mankind. Do you watch that? Have you been watching that? And do you feel like that's sort of a more sort of accurate depiction of some of the things we're talking about, or not really?
Let's just say I know Denise and Michael Okuda.
Oh, okay.
So you're not going to say either way, are you?
Okay.
So, yeah. so occasionally I'll get this, hey, what would happen if, like, okay. But yeah, there's a lot of the mission control stuff and things like that. The background stuff is really good. They've got astronauts as some of the advisors and some of other of us and stuff like that. And they do their homework. They really do their homework. So it's really, really good. It's projected out, but it's interesting that some of the projects that they portray were actually design things in there, and so it's amazing to think. It's just like that could have happened. Like, yeah, interesting. Love it.
Do you have any desire to go on one of these missions?
Take me up, sign me up. Where do I go?
Oops, your lights just went off.
Oh yeah, the
That
building
just got creepy.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the warning that the power's going to reserve. At night, they shut down the building's power to conserve.
That's when the monsters come out.
Oh yeah,
Mostly.
Good to know. Yeah, because I was just thinking that, you're sort of prepping everyone else for this adventure, but you don't really get to go on it yourself. I mean, you have all the responsibilities without any of the fun.
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting though, because I was lead of the zero gravity aircraft, so they do experiments in the Vomit Comet.
Right.
Oh God.
So I did a whole bunch of parabolas, so I know what microgravity feels like and stuff like that, and it's interesting. And so would I go up in a heartbeat? And it's just like even for a short trip and stuff like that, just to see the stars.
Right.
Oh God, yeah, in a heartbeat. And I wish that Shatner had stayed up a little bit longer and gotten the eye adjustment to see the stars, because when they go up there, there's a little bit of adjustment to differentiate between the bright Earth and the black of space.
Especially if you're looking at the bright Earth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I wish he could have stayed up there and done that. But of course, everybody was looking, and it's just like, one, we want to hear what Shatner has to say, and two, don't kill Shatner.
Right.
No, do not kill the Shat.
He came back very moved. I mean, that was a profound experience for him.
And the descriptions, everyone, a couple of the astronauts went, yeah, that's a pretty good description. Unfortunately, he was in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden they cut away, and it's just like, no, go back.
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos wanted to pop the cork on the champagne and interrupt Shatner's revelry, and it was really unfortunate, because Bill had so much to say in that moment, and it was so powerful.
It was, and it's just like, so. Luckily enough, there was a NASA photographer. It wasn't NASA. There was somebody that was a freelancer that actually, filmed some of the stuff, and he brought it back, and it's just like, and it was just enthralling to see some of that stuff that he experienced and stuff like that. And it was very, very, very descriptive. And a couple of the astronauts went, "Yep, I wish I'd have said that."
And there's obviously been a lot of talk recently about going back to the moon and having a more permanent presence there. Is that something you foresee in the next decade or two, as well as Mars?
Absolutely. The way we're going to vet all the procedures and stuff like that, the technology will be vetted on the moon. The engine propulsion stack, now we have the world's smallest nuclear reactor that they fired off in Kennedy about a year and a half ago, and it's the size of a thermos. It's just like huge amount of power with that. So small nuclear reactors and stuff like that, powering a whole bunch of stuff. And but basically that's why the Artemis missions take longer. Is that the orbital plot is no longer, you launch from the equator and circle the equator of the moon. Well, that kind of limits the space. So we want to go to the polar regions where the water is.
Right.
and learn how to mine the water, crack the lithium, and learn how to make radiation-proof shelters, the regolith, or just shelters, and just take it, put a composite on it, and build shelters that are sealed that can resist a whole lot of the stuff that goes on,
and use the materials found on the moon to build a station.
Yes, absolutely. And the amazing thing is that Gateway, the docking port, has several purposes. One, it's orbiting and can change at perigee that how it gives it very little fuel. How does it do that? It's going through a Lagrange point.
Right.
So that's the point where gravity in between the Earth and the moon sort of nullifies.
Right.
And it is a great launching point for going to Mars. So develop all the stuff. Now you've got the infrastructure, the construction, the technology. Here's the foundation. Let's go to the moon.
And the ability to have so much more fuel to use for actually getting there rather than escaping Earth's gravity. Well,
yep. And so it's
amazing.
Conservation. And it was interesting because you have to go the Gateway. You had to go through the astrophysics and spatial dynamics courses, and it took 4 hours to go. Oh wow! It's just like this is a perfect launching point. Yeah, it only took 4 hours to get there.
Wow.
And the astrodynamics and stuff like that. So for it was like a day and a half, 2 days Apollo getting there. Well, it's going to be 5 days because of the orbital plot to get Artemis there, the Orion capsule. Completely different. So because it's orbiting that, and oh, by the way, that orbital plot, it is further out than any person will go to. That will go, and so that'll be the furthest that humans ever been. Will be Artemis 2. And oh, by the way, it's going to be the fastest. And so Apollo was about 23,005. So 25,800, miles per hour. And so they are going to be the world's fastest 4 humans at the finish of Artemis 2.
Wow. So are there any plans to bring Leah Thompson back to space camp?
Actually, yeah.
Besides your own plans.
Oh, brats. You just spoil everything.
Well, I was going to say, it must be nice to work with astronauts as a doctor because you're not dealing with like these hypochondriacs. You're like, oh, my headache, I think it's a tumor. It's like these guys and women are very tough and they're not going to complain the way a lot of your patients would in civilian life.
No, but they get themselves in trouble. They are extremely competitive, and we had one, and that was one that was right before a shuttle launch, and fairly soon that got into a bike wreck, and he was going so fast on his bike in a competition, in a bike race, he fractured his hip. So it's like, okay, so basically he went to the operating room with a flight surgeon in tow.
Yeah.
And there was a substitution, which turned into a rule like thou shalt not be in competitive sports or contact sports within this period of time before your flight. Like,
they called Kevin Bacon in what you're saying.
Yes. Where's your bacon?
Well, Dr. Alexander, before we let you go, we have to ask you, of course, who your favorite Star Trek character is. Obviously, Dr. McCoy was a huge inspiration, but you've spent a lot of time with Bill up in Ticonderoga. I imagine Captain Kirk is someone who was an inspiration. So who's your number one Star Trek character?
All right. On the show or personally?
On the show. Let's keep it on the show. Well, do both. Tell us both.
So it was McCoy. It was Shatner.
Damn it.
Shatner to start off with, because of that personality, but it was also the interesting stuff. Watching McCoy do the surgery was fascinating, even though it was a salt shaker in his leg. Yeah. But to see some of the stuff, I mean that some of the modern stuff that went into that is just like, oh, that's a blood filter, that's a this, and that's anesthesia without a certain amount of things that you can get oxygen through the skin and stuff like that, and it's just like, it was just fascinating. So, but yeah, that's on a one-to-one basis, Shatner's a very interesting character, and it's a tough one, because the top three were always Spock with the science, McCoy with the surgical skills, and Shatner with the reasoning, command, logic. Were all, that's a tough one, but it was McCoy. And if you look in Mission Control, the surgeon console where it has the surgeon sign, there's a McCoy sitting up there.
Oh,
that's great.
That's awesome.
In the Star Trek: The Motion Picture disco outfit with the gold medallion? No.
Nope. In the blues, in the surgical smock.
Now, did you wear the doctor's shirt that James gave you? Have you worn it yet?
I've worn it, but actually, we are going to do a tapping coming up, and I will be wearing it officially to place somebody's flight surgeon wings on. And so,
that's great.
That's very cool.
So I got that special request, and so I will be wearing that shirt and pinning somebody's brand new flight surgeon who got his brand new qualification. So I get to pin somebody.
That's so great. That's so great.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Alexander, I guess there's only one thing left to say: live long and prosper. This has been absolutely fascinating conversation. We appreciate you staying through the lights going out. It's like the and everything to finish. Sharing with us the amazing work that you're doing at NASA with our astronauts, and it's at the space program. It's pretty amazing. So thank you. We hope to see you back on board the Enterprise one of these days.
It was enjoying meeting you guys up there, and I enjoy every single moment, every single Treksperts, and it's just great. But it was really honored that I was asked to come on the program, and so thank you very much, and it was an honor for me as well.
Thank you, Dr. David.
Thank you.
It's great.
Take care.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
That was really interesting. And again, special thanks to David Alexander for joining us, and Darren for putting the whole thing together. Although you didn't do any McCoy, damn it, Jims, the whole time.
No, because why would you do McCoy for McCoy?
All Too Easy.
I don't know. Oh my God! Speaking of All Too Easy, did you see the Andor trailer today for season 2?
No, I haven't.
It's
seen
out. Oh, I can't wait. I can't
Let me
wait.
guess. Lots of Darth Vader.
No Darth Vader.
Oh, okay.
Lots of Luthen Rail.
A little bit.
Okay, as long as there's some, that's all I need.
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's the only Star Wars I'm looking forward to, and
they're all same.
And I know it's going to be good. I just can't wait. I'm so excited. There's not a lot I'm excited about coming out, but man, Andor, because they proved themselves already. So it's like I know Tony Gilroy's going to deliver the goods.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, he's not going to string it out for years because this is it. This is it. Oh, and they're dropping it in a weird pattern, 3 episodes at a time. So it's 3, 3, 3, and 3. Huh. Like they're not doing 3 and then weekly
over 1 month.
Yeah, they're going to do the whole Megillah, as we say. Yeah, so very interesting. Cool. Yeah, and then you know where you'll be able to discuss it with us.
Right here on the Treksperts.
Well, you actually won't, because GalaxyCon is coming up March 27th to 30th in Richmond. And man, have this Festival of Fandom lined up some amazing guests. Martin Sheen is going to be there. William Shatner, Jonathan Frakes, Dule Hill. It just is extraordinary. They've really they're hitting it out of the park.
They're having a whole West Wing retrospective.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I hope we're moderating that because who better than us? Because, West Wing is only hop, skip, and a jump away from Star Trek. And, plus also, we can also talk about Apocalypse Now.
Right.
We should do that. So hopefully that's happening. I don't know. I can't say. I just, we've asked for it. Whether we get it,
we got to get Martin Sheen to do Richmond. I'm still in Richmond.
That's really funny. And it's 4 days this year because it's gotten so big. They need only 4 days to contain it.
We could also ask grown-ups now. It's too big.
Yeah. So you don't want to miss GalaxyCon Richmond. That's March 27th, 30th. The Treksperts will be there. Will you? And then August 6th to the 10th, it's Star Trek Las Vegas. So get ready to experience the Royale with cheese and the Treksperts. August 6th and 10th. For more information, go to creationent.com. We can find out how to get tickets and join us for the ultimate Star Trek event of the year. And I think that's really about it for us for now.
Nice. That's a lot.
I think it's time to wrap up.
You think
Ashley, welcome back.
You think we should call it the Treksperts stage?
Back.
The Treksperts stage phase 2?
That's funny. That's funny.
But no, we can't because then it means that we would never actually make it onto the stage.
That's true. That's true. I think we should come out in interphase too.
Oh my God,
that's right. Just sort of float out. Just
yes, we'd all like to see the Treksperts.
It's like they're caught in interface. They'll be back on Sunday.
Glorious Treksperts 2, The Wrath of Khan.
I see.
Get it?
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad. C-O-N.
Yeah.
No. He's not your average bear. He's smarter than your average bear.
He's slightly above average bear.
Oh, speaking of which, average bears, before we go. So we went to Disneyland last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the past, I've been very critical of that Smuggler's Run ride, at Disneyland. But we were the pilots instead of the engineer for the first time. That ride's awesome when you're the pilot. It's so good. It's like, Rise of the Resistance is the greatest theme park ride ever built. But Smuggler's Run always disappointed me, even though, but oh my gosh, once we were the pilots, it elevated it tremendously because we got to go to hyperspace. I pulled the throttle and we went to hyperspace.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Where you sit on Smuggler's Run completely determines your experience on that ride.
Totally transformative. I loved it.
Yeah.
We're like piloting the Millennium Falcon. It's not like when you were back in the engineer going boop, boop, boop. This is just to give us something to do, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But when you're piloting, my God, I got the coaxium. I got us out of there. I got us to hyperspace. It was all me, baby. I was Han Solo. It's freaking great.
Scruffy nerf herder.
Well, I don't know if I was Nien Nunb or Han Solo. I was
you
one
took
of
the experience away from your children,
Jabbo.
in other words.
No, my kids weren't with me. They were somewhere else, but it was my wife and I.
Uh-huh.
We did it. And they said, whatever you do, don't go on Rise of Resistance. And then we tried to get on Rise of Resistance, but we couldn't. Totally lied. We said, "Oh, we wouldn't do that to you guys," but they were off doing. They were off on their own. It was a weird thing because we stayed at the Disneyland Hotel because we wanted to be close to the monorail so that we could go back.
Yeah, but they don't have that thing anymore.
It's not working.
Yeah,
it was very disappointing. I was very
the monorail is
disappointed.
down.
The branch that goes to the Disneyland Hotel is down.
Oh, copy. Okay.
Yeah, so
it has been for years.
No, it hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Yeah, back in 22 when I
they're
went,
renovating it.
It was
they said it was down for construct. The whole monorail was down.
Yeah, they're lying.
So I was very, and the guy says front desk. He says, "Yeah, it's only like a 15-minute walk." But I said the whole reason we're at the thing is so we'd be close because my wife had been bit by a dog. I had just gotten over the flu. It was like we didn't want to walk 20 minutes to get to the park. We wanted to take the monorail so we could go back and forth.
We wanted to be driven there in style.
That would have been nice. Inglorious Treksperts is a production of the Treksperts Podcast Network. Mark A. Altman, Darren Doctman, Ashley Miller, executive producers, Peter Holmstrom, Brian Mix. Producers, Mark Rivera is our audio sound mixer. John Carney is our social media manager. And Inglorious Treksperts is copyright 2025 by Treksperts Plus and is available wherever you listen to podcasts and on video via Spotify and now on YouTube. You can review Inglorious Treksperts wherever you listen and share your thoughts with us and grow stronger through the sharing on your favorite social media platforms or on the Inglorious Treksperts Discord channel. For more details, go to the show notes. Other Treksperts Podcast Network podcasts are available on the Treksperts Podcast Network, wherever you listen to podcasts. So there you go. It's a lot of podcasting. You can listen, you can do, you can enjoy. And we'll be back next Thursday with a new episode. So till then, welcome back, Ashley Edward Miller. Glad to see you've gotten over your flu.
Yeah,
Darren Doctman, he hasn't gone anywhere. And he's been here the whole time. And I got over the flu. I'm still coughing a little bit, but anyway.
Why are there only one set of footprints? It was there that I carried the podcast.
He carried it on his back. But he refused to do imitations. He doesn't want to do the imitations.
Only on special occasions.
The whole I want to do an episode, the imitation game. It's just Darren doing impersonations.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
But he won't do it. Anyway.
If he were really cool, he would do an impression of you and of me and pretend that he was the entire podcast.
No,
that sounds like a bar bet waiting to happen.
No, because he'd have to gesticulate too much if he was doing me.
Yeah,
Can't do it. Can't keep it.
I would get an aneurysm if I
You'd get gesticular cancer.
Gesticular cancer. Oh my God. Yeah. That's good. That's a good one. That's funny.
Thanks.
I mean, not that cancer is funny, but that's a funny joke.
Cancer's not funny, but gesticular cancer.
Gesticular cancer. Exactly. Oh my God. What are you being biopsied for? Gesticular cancer. Okay. On that note, it's time to go. So we'll see you all next Thursday. Special thanks to Woodrow Wilson for that lovely and thoughtful letter. And
for World War I.
Yeah. Wonderful. The League of Nations. Thank you for that as well. And we'll see you next Thursday. Shh. Engage. That's where you do the sound effect. That's Darren, by the way.
You were doing nothing, so I
Darren does the sound effect. Darren goes like, shh. I know you think it's like, okay, goodbye.
Wish
see you
is
next
done.
week.